Hello, Somerville. My name is Steve Roussel. I work for Meetinghouse Bank. I'm a mortgage specialist, and what we're going to be talking today with our panel is we're going to be talking about Let's Talk Somerville Real Estate. And I want to introduce our two panelists. On my left is Carey Gatto. She's a specialist in the real estate market where she does listings in Somerville. And she's going to help us understand the real estate market here in Somerville. And to her right is John Bucelli. He's the president of Bucelli Real Estate right here in Somerville. And we're going to start off with asking the panel, why Somerville?
Well, first of all, thanks for having us on, Steve.
Oh,
appreciate
thanks,
it. Glad to be here. So why Somerville? You want to go ahead?
Well, want me to start at the beginning in 1988?
You know, we had this conversation. You were mentioning in 1988, to the best of my recollection, there was not a condo in the market in 1988.
In 1988, when I started, there were literally relatively few condos on the market for sale. 70% of the market was made up of multifamily homes and 30% one-family homes. The prices at that time were about $195,000 for a single, $250,000 for a two-family, and $289,000 for a three-family. There were a few condos, and they were already existing in brick buildings that were already standing at about $129,000. Fast forward to today, in 2015, last year alone, there were 647 sales in the market in Somerville only, of which 417 were condominiums. That represents 64% from literally 0% in 88, 64% condos in 2015. 12% were singles, 24% were multis. So there's been a huge push for condominiums in the city of Somerville. And that's what we're seeing, that's what people want to live, and we'll get into why. Carey will talk a little bit about that. But it's been a real transitioning market over the years since 1988.
Wow, those are unbelievable statistics, John. I mean, in 1988, from no condo sales to 64% in 2015, that's 27 years?
Exactly.
27 years.
Correct.
So I'm going to ask Carey. Carey, you've been in this market for a very long time.
About 5 years.
5 years.
Not as long as John, but
you know, you're working with a lot of buyers. You're working with a lot of sellers. Mm-hmm. Why are people buying in Somerville?
Great question. You know, there's lots of reasons. I like Somerville, you know, because it's a great community. I love that it's this kind of mixture between urban and suburban. It's kind of right in the Segway area. There's kind of an artistic community here too. Somerville actually subsidizes artist housing, which is a pretty rare thing. So you'll find a lot of artist galleries and you know, community events like farmers markets and things like that. But obviously the accessibility to the city and public transportation is a no-brainer. People are all about that. Not having to commute out to the suburbs is huge. It's a growing trend. And also, you know, with that, also the walkability of the squares, Davis Square, Inman Square, Porter Square, Union Square, where we are today. You know, there's just a great appeal of being able to go out your front door and you've got everything right there. You don't have to jump in your car. You've got nightlife, and there's just always something going on in Somerville. It's fun, it's funky, it's exciting, it's where people want to be.
Well, you know, what we were talking about earlier, we found out that a lot of people from the suburbs are selling their homes, empty nesters, which are people that have grown a family, their kids are out, they're starting their own families, and they are bored being outside.
Absolutely.
And they're coming to Somerville. John, could you, I mean, is this a true statement? Or?
Absolutely. So we get a lot young urban professionals that are in the city that like to buy here. And that's one of the other reasons Carey and I were talking about before the show, that one of the big impetus for condo development is affordability. People want to own their own piece of real estate, and condos are affordable. So we see the young urban professionals, they like to own, they want less maintenance, they're not tied down to being a landlord, they don't want to be a landlord, and yet when they come home from their jobs, they like to walk to the square or get on a bicycle path or wherever, all the recreation that they have going on in Somerville. And yet we do have the other people, the empty nesters. In fact, Carey was just involved in a purchase from somebody, I believe.
Yeah. Great couple. They were actually moving from Connecticut, from the suburbs of Connecticut, where they had, raised their family, and that's why they'd moved there to raise their kids. But when the kids up and left, they were like, we want to be someplace where we're going to have fun. Now it's our time. And out of the whole East Coast, they decided on Davis Square, because it had everything they were looking for. They, like we were just saying, could go out their door, walk to some place to eat, to see a band play, to see a movie play. So that's what really drew them here. And I think it draws a lot of people.
You know what's amazing? I've been to Assembly Square Mall. We're here at Union Square, Davis Square, and Porter Square. And what I see is that I see a lot of diversity. I see a lot of inclusion with people, different cultures, everybody being accepting. And I see this city as being a very safe city. Do you think that that's a big draw for people coming in?
Yeah, I'd say so. Well, your father was a policeman, so you probably have a good
My father was a
angle on
policeman
that.
back in the 60s and the 70s in Davis Square, when nobody wanted to live there at the time. And Mayor Brune, under his administration, with the Red Line coming in, changed that whole area, did a fantastic job for the city. Michael Capuano, subsequent to him, come in. Under his leadership, a lot of great changes. And Mayor Joe Curtatone, it speaks for itself. He's brought the city to another level, to the stratosphere. People, it's a safe city, it's a fun city. They've won so many awards for schools, charter schools, 2% in the U.S. according to U.S. World Report, News and World Report. There's been just so many positive changes. People want to be here.
You know what an interesting comment that I just picked up on? The Red Line coming to Davis Square.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of growth, and there was a lot of people coming in, and it was accessible. Now I noticed that at the Assembly Square Mall,
Right.
there's a new neighborhood that has grown that I didn't have the vision for. Assembly Square now has a train station, which is the Orange Line, and I'm seeing all these businesses. I'm seeing all these condominiums, all these apartments, all these businesses right on that waterfront.
Outlet stores as well. Joe Curtatone, when he took office, one of his main things that he wanted to push for was the development of that site at Assembly Square. And you just have to go down there to see what's going on. It's vibrant, restaurants, shops, housing.
Lots of parking.
Lots of parking, absolutely. So that came to fruition from a vision, and there were a lot of obstacles, and he stayed on it, and it got done.
Well, I think it's great because my wife and I won't say where we ate, but we ate at one of the restaurants. And of course, I probably had a little too much to eat. And I said, honey, can I walk this off? And we went down by the water, and I can't believe how nice it is. There's ducks, there's geese. They have the Winter Hill Yacht Club, and then you can just walk all the way down. With that in mind, I'm now thinking about Union Square. What are you seeing? Do you see the same thing that happened in Davis Square on the Red Line, Assembly Square Mall, the Orange Line, and now Union Square, Green Line? Do you see the same thing happening?
Absolutely. Yeah. In fact, Carey sold a business down in Union Square and has a listing right down in that particular area. People already in anticipation of the Green Line extension, which is coming through Leechmere into Union Square,
Yeah.
up towards Gilman Square, and then through Lowell Street, up to Ball Square, and then up to Tufts, and then into Medford. That's an exciting project. A lot more people with access to transportation. It's a, people are looking forward to seeing that happen.
Yeah,
And they've
they're
already started, they're already starting to work on that. I think they're projecting that for 2017
17.
or thereabouts.
Well, we're already halfway through 2015.
I know, it's flying
will
by.
fly.
It's gonna be here before you know it.
Absolutely.
And actually, a lot of people don't know this, but Union Square used to be more of the hub rather than Davis. Back in the earlier part of the century, it had the trolley to Union Square. I actually read that in the book Beyond the Neck that John recommended. It's all about the history of Somerville.
Great
And,
book. You can get it at the Somerville Museum.
Yeah.
I even think you can probably get it on Amazon. But what a book for a Somerville
Yeah.
resident to know and learn a little bit about the history of Somerville. It's a great coffee table book. Everybody should read it. Great history there.
And they showed Midnight Convenience Store. It's the oldest extant building in the square. But yeah, one of the interesting facts was that there was a trolley to Union Square, but nowhere else in Somerville really had access to the trolley. And then at some point, that went away for whatever reason. And then later on, decades later, the Red Line came. It extended to Alewife and came through Davis Square, which meant that Davis Square exploded, as we all know. So yeah, I think bringing the Green Line back to Union Square is just going to be, it's going to be such a big change.
Well, we've talked about safety.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about empty nesters coming back. We talked about the younger generation being in school and college here and having jobs. We talked about transportation. But John, when I caught up on, you talked about government. When you talk about the Somerville government, what have they really done specifically to really create the economic engine, to create the collaboration? I mean, it's a lot of work to get everybody to move forward. What's really the top agenda things that the government has done to make Somerville what it is today?
I just think that the mayor had a vision. He established his vision. Specifically, I don't know a lot about that. My focus has been literally on real estate, but watching the administration and how they operate, they've been very much moving development in the right direction. The city has a housing shortage where we need more properties to sell. Carey can tell you right now, we've got so much demand, not enough supply. The prices of homes have escalated far beyond a lot of money that people can afford. So a lot of development that's going on that the administration has been behind, Assembly Row, and some other projects in the city, and any other project that has to go through the Board of Appeals and so on. I would encourage them to do that. The city needs housing. So I think they've done a fantastic job in all areas, and you can't take it away. He's done a fantastic job.
We talked about Davis Square. It's probably already where it needs to be.
Right.
We see Assembly growing. What's the vision for Assembly Square? How big is that project going to be, and when do you think it will end?
I think there's still a way to go there with the residential units there. I think there's in the vicinity of 250 residential units right now that they're renting. There will be some condos for sale. They still have a way to go.
There's a lot of new construction happening all over Somerville right now.
Right.
Right around the corner here in Union, they're building an Assembly. And right up the street from us, there's a huge project happening. I'm not sure. I think it's probably to be a mixture of residential and commercial, but there's just a ton of new construction. You can see it happening all over. Every time you come into the city, there's something new.
Well, that's phenomenal. What I'm hearing is that Somerville is on the move. The location of Somerville is really second to none.
Yeah.
I mean, you have the Museum of Fine Arts, you have the Red Sox, you have the culture, you have the major colleges. Are you seeing a lot of students from other parts of the country and other parts of the world coming here to go to school in Boston?
Yeah, that's what we talked about earlier, that
Yeah.
a lot of the people that come to school here, when they come from wherever they come from, all over the world, Tufts, Harvard, MIT, Lesley, Brandeis, they like what they see and they want to live in Somerville. So a lot of those people end up going to school here, they want to come and work here, and they want to live here. So that's a big thing. There's no doubt about that.
You know, what about the restaurants? I've eaten in a few of the restaurants here.
Yeah, that's a big scene right now. I mean, there seems to be a new Somerville restaurant getting like a Zagat top star, and nationally renowned every day. Like Sarma is a new one in Somerville that's rated very highly. They're like Moroccan, Middle Eastern style. Well, there's another one, Bergamot, that's in the Inman Square location, or near Inman Square on Beacon Street in Somerville. That's New American. It's supposed to be awesome. There's also a lot of like small businesses in Somerville that are popping up. There's a great butcher right on Highland Avenue, Mike Dulox. He's just like one of those artisan butchers, that gets the best product and does it all in-house for you. You can call him up and place special orders. There's also Somerville Chocolate. They're like a crop share for cacao beans. So just like you have crop shares for farms, they get their cacao beans directly from like Southern America, or wherever you get those, and they distribute chocolate made from the crop out to their customers on like a monthly basis. So that's a new idea. And also Green City Growers, we were just talking about this earlier, they're an urban farming company. They operate right out of East Somerville, and they do a lot of raised beds for homeowners that want to have their own vegetable gardens at home. And also they work with schools, they do rooftop gardens for restaurants. They just did one for Whole Foods in Linfield, and they just did one for Fenway, which is huge. So they've now got a rooftop garden at Fenway, just started this year.
Well,
They're a great
I mean,
resource.
it's a lot of things that are going on in this city.
It's awesome.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
what that does too, it creates jobs. And the jobs create the need for housing, and it's just an economic engine that didn't happen by magic. This happened by the administration. So I guess that puts another plus in Mayor Curtatoni's corner there for doing that.
Yeah.
So it really is something right now that we're in a little bit of a bind in the real estate market, because it's just, although we're seeing it change a little bit, the inventory has been tight, buyers have been frustrated, brokers have been frustrated, because you bring a buyer in, they want to see a home, and there's 13 other buyers that are looking to get in. And that happened early spring. We are starting to see a little bit of a shift where open houses attendance are a little bit less. Homes, I think Carey had mentioned that were on 15 days on the market, have now increased to...
Yeah, so they're now like over 30 days on market on average, which, although that's still fast, it's a pretty big increase, because we were well below 30 days average days on market for the past 2 years. So that just means that inventory is sitting on the market a little longer, and it's not being necessarily sold the first weekend.
I see. So, I mean, the rates really haven't gone up. Is it because people think it's a lack of supply? Have they given up? Do they understand that there's a lot of stuff coming out on the market that's being built?
More inventory is coming on. More sellers are realizing that they can get their price. Because here in Somerville, we've seen over the past 2 years, the average sales prices have jumped over 30% from 2013. So that's a major increase. So now that sellers are seeing those prices, they're saying, okay, well, maybe it's my time to sell, and they're putting it on the market, seeing what they can get. So there's more inventory becoming available, and it's starting to soak up some of the demand.
Do you think investors will see land that they have that's undeveloped, and maybe will they start developing more condos? Will multifamily owners condominiumize?
Absolutely.
Their 4-family, their 3-family into condominiums. What do you think is going to happen in the future, in the near future?
Well, yeah, a lot of people ask us about that. I mean, definitely it's a big business. Developers are doing a lot of conversions, and a lot of, private homeowners come to us and say, so what's the deal? Can we do this too? And we do have resources that we can provide for the legal aspects of it, and also for the renovation aspects of it. So
it's not an easy process.
No.
Yeah.
So if somebody wants to condominiumize, they need an attorney.
Correct.
They need a surveyor.
Correct.
They need an engineer.
an architect.
An architect. They need this team of people, and it might not be in their specialty of what they do.
Correct.
So if you're somebody who has a 3-family, 4-family, wants to condominiumize, what would you suggest?
I think the first thing I'd do is have a good broker come out and take a look at it, because there are some areas where a condo might not be in their best interest, and it might not be highest and best use. So you really got to analyze that. That's number one, having a conversation. Where is it? Does it have parking? What is the price per square foot? Will it make sense? Etc. So first step would be getting a good broker, local broker that knows the ins and outs of the markets. That's critical. That's step number one. You said, is the process difficult? It really isn't. There's step by step if you know what to do. But it is a process, and it can be done. Anybody can do it. It's just a form of ownership. And I mean, the proof's in the pudding. 64% of the properties that are selling in the city are condos. And like Carey said earlier, it's affordability. It's affordable. And it's a win-win. It works for the city. It works for the people that want to live in there. It works for everybody. One of the things that is a big part of a condo is the financing of a condo. And that, when you get a 3-family or a 2-family, a lot of banks are reluctant to loan or lend on a home that isn't occupied at present. I mean, when you convert it, nobody's living there. So now the bank comes in.
I understand what you're saying.
So I know you're a loan officer, and we've used you in the past, and you can maybe shed some light to the viewers on specifically what conundrum we get into when it comes to selling off the first few condos in a project, whether it's a 2 or 3-family or more.
No, that's a good question. I'm finding it that the local community banks, the smaller banks in the area that know the area better than the larger national banks. I won't name who the larger national banks are, but they're more cookie cutter. They're more of the lenders that want to see 70% of the units to be pre-sold, versus local lending where they understand the market, and what they'll do is they'll do these things called non-warrantable condos. And what a non-warrantable condo is something that's not meeting the standards of the large big box banks. So all these little community banks have special products that they'll hold in-house. And they'll start the condos off to make sure that if someone does condominiumize, that they'll be able to sell the first one, the second one, and then by the time you sell the third one, it's now going to meet the big box bank sort of programs and criteria. So what I would say to the viewers that are out there having issues with condominium financing, I would say that you need to shop around. And the smaller, the better, I think, and the more local, the better. If you're dealing with an outside bank from outside the state or outside the area, they may not know the idiosyncrasies of the community here in Somerville. We're about 3 minutes out, and what I want to do is I want to give you the last word. What is important for you to let the people out in Somerville know about this community. Now, we didn't talk about playgrounds and education and charter schools and things like that. What would be your final points to Carey? What final points could you tell the viewers that would be important for them to know?
Well, I think everybody kind of understands the appeal of Somerville, especially people that already live here. You know, it's a great place to live. It's a great place to work. I'd like to just make a note about, continuing what we were talking about with the market. It seems like everyone, is in anticipation of the Green Line coming, and everyone agrees it's going to be a great thing, a positive thing. But like we were saying, the market's jumped up so much over the past 2 years, and a lot of it is because of the anticipation of the Green Line, as well as the general economic improvement, nationally and regionally. But there is going to be a tipping point at some stage, and it's just a question of when. So I think I'd like to just make the point that if everyone is waiting for the Green Line to come before they sell, if they're kind of holding out for that, for prices to keep going, you might run into a problem that could counter that, which would be that there's going to be an oversupply of inventory on the market, which would obviously dampen prices. So, if you are thinking that you might like to sell, it might be the right time. There's no time like the present. No one knows what's going to happen in the future. No one has a crystal ball. But right now, it's definitely a hot market, and there's definitely demand, for that inventory. So.
Well, one thing that we didn't talk about, John, maybe you can talk about this, is that if someone's looking to find out what their property's worth, they can call a realtor like yourself or a company like yourself that can do a free market analysis.
In fact, we do a lot of them over the phone. They can just call us, and we've been experts in the market for 27 years and know the area well. So we can give them a kind of an overview of what their home is worth. And I would definitely say in this market, to concur with what Carey said, that when you're getting $1 million for properties in West Somerville, there is a point that things don't just keep going in up forever.
Right.
We've seen that in 2008. The market can change. There's a lot of stuff in the pipeline. Demand changes. So if I was a home seller, I'd seriously consider it. A broker typically gets 10 to 15% more than an owner could get on their own because of all of the tools that we use. So I would definitely recommend that they talk to a local broker who knows the ins and outs of the community.
Thank you for saying that. We're about 13 seconds out, and I just wanted to thank the City of Somerville for watching our program today. And if you have any questions, feel free to give us a call. Thank you, and have a good day.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.